Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I am looking at a reel sent to me by someone in the congregation. A guy named Zachary Helton has a reel claiming that Martha was inserted into the story of Lazarus to detract from the character of Mary, which he and others believe is Mary Magdalene, because they wanted to uphold Peter and press down the women of the gospel. I'm going to take a look at it with you, and I'll react as we go along to see if what he is claiming is true. Let's take a look. Here we go.
Important women in the gospel was edited out of the story. And what if that edit shaped what the church would become? Some of you know the name Elizabeth Schrader. When she was a seminarian, she was studying Papyrus 66, which is the oldest surviving copy of the Gospel of John. And she noticed something weird. She found that where we've always read about Mary and Martha, there is no Martha, not in the earliest text.
Okay, so this first claim is that in Papyrus 66, when Elizabeth Schrader looked at it, she found that there is no Martha. And then he says, and not in the earliest text. So that's a claim we can test. Let's go take a look at Papyrus 66. Now, in Papyrus 66, what you get is a really odd reading. And so there was a man named Lazarus from Bethany, from the village of Mary and Mary, the sisters of him. That's a weird reading, right? If you look at Papyrus 66, what you will see is that the scribe writes out Mary and Mary, the sister of him, and then there's a scratch out that reads Martha. They take the iota out and add a theta. And so what's going on here is the word Mary, Marias, looks a whole lot like the word Marthos, which is basically the same thing. And you can see when we put it in this Greek text from the Greek New Testament today, the only difference between Marias and Marthos is one letter. It's whether your iota becomes a theta. And so this scribe, what he did is he made a mistake. When you are copying something and you write Marias and Marthos, it's easy to write Marias and Marias. He just makes a mistake. And this is something that Elizabeth Schrader says, that the scribe of P66 is notorious for making mistakes. He does it all the time. And so this is very different from saying there is no Martha. Now, when I read Schrader's article, what she says is that the scribe has some awareness of some other manuscript where there is no Martha. And so he makes up this nonsense reading. I don't buy it. She actually makes some interesting arguments about the challenges of the Martha in the manuscripts, but they're all handled and is a little complex by an article that I'll put in the notes. But to say that there is no Martha is flagrantly wrong. And furthermore, the name Martha shows up in P66 in other passages without the editing. So there's no hesitation, no scratching out, nothing like that. It's just Martha. And then he says, in the earliest manuscripts, there is only this manuscript. There's some funkiness, but nothing that isn't handled by normal scribal behavior. And so this foundation for this is totally wrong. Let's keep going.
Instead, there's only Mary. Schrader found that over time, Mary of Bethany was split into two characters, probably to harmonize with the Mary and Martha that we have in Luke, who are actually entirely different people.
He says, over time, Mary and Martha were split into two characters, probably to harmonize in the Gospel of Luke. There is zero evidence for this. Nothing at all. There is no text that suggests this, nothing in any way. And he is just hand-waving. These are not the droids you are looking for. Very simple. There's no evidence anywhere that this is what happened. Sure, some people mistake Mary and Martha from the Gospel of John for the Mary and Martha of the book of Luke. That makes some sense, but we don't know if they're the same people. It could just be that Mary is one of the most popular names of the New Testament era, and there are lots of them.
So then Schrader asked if Mary of Bethany was split into two. Could she also be Mary Magdalene, who appears at the tomb at the end of the story? But why does this matter? It matters because when you read it this way, Mary is not a supporting role. She is central. She has theological conversations with Jesus. She is involved with key events. She's the first one to proclaim the gospel.
So far, he is saying that there was only Mary, and then that this is Mary Magdalene. Now, that's a big thing, right? To say this Mary has to be Mary Magdalene is a huge leap in logic. It's another one of those, like, these are not the droids you are looking for moments. Just sort of wave your hand and say, this must be it. There is no reason to suspect that this Mary, even if you don't believe there's a Martha, that this Mary is Mary Magdalene. Again, one of the most popular names of the New Testament era. You couldn't throw a stone without hitting a Mary in Jesus' day. And this is why there are Marys going to the tomb, many of them in the early morning and in the Gospels. And so it's not just Mary Magdalene. There's also Mary, the mother of Jesus, and the other Mary. Lots and lots of Marys. So to say, I know, it must be Mary Magdalene, that's just hand waving.
And if she's from Bethany, then Magdalene can't refer to her hometown. In fact, some scholars argue that Magdala wasn't even called that until later. And if it doesn't refer to where she's from, then the next most likely explanation is that it's a nickname from the Aramaic Magdal, which means the tower. And if you put all that together, you wind up with a highly significant character in the Gospels. As significant as Peter, but with far less recognition. Both recognize who Jesus is before anybody else.
Okay, if Mary Magdalene is there, now she's got this nickname, probably not from the town of Magdala, which means that this nickname Magdal means the tower. And so this has to have an important feature. We don't know why. We don't know what's going on. We don't know. There's no evidence of this anywhere.
Both receive names to mark their leadership. And if Peter is the rock on which the church was built, Mary is the tower giving it vision.
Now you hear the reason why Magdal is a big deal. In Arabic, he's saying that it means the tower. And some of what he says is correct. Mary Magdalene is an important figure in the Gospel of John. Now, we don't know if this Mary is Mary Magdalene, but there are some clear confessions of Christ in the Lazarus story, some clear understanding of who he is, and this is the place where he gives us the I am the resurrection and the life. But what he goes next to is he says, well, Magdal must mean tower. And you get this nickname because Peter also has a nickname, the Rock. And if he is the rock on which we built the church, then she must be the one who gives vision. Again, we have no evidence of this anywhere in the text. We do have evidence of Peter's confession of Christ being replied by to Jesus. He says, "You are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it." This doesn't happen in the Gospel of John, though. There is no moment like that in the Gospel of John. And Helton, all he's doing is just saying, somewhere in the Bible, a nickname says a clear purpose for Peter. This woman also has a nickname, so she must have a clear purpose in the church too. There are lots of nicknames in the Bible. I think one of the great ones from the Gospel of John, I believe, is the Sons of Thunder, James and John. We don't get some random definition of their role in the church like thundering for Jesus. It's just kind of ridiculous.
Matters because when you put all of that together, you get a gospel story that could never have been used to justify
there it is,
or to subjugate women. It matters because systems of oppression are built on stories, and it's alternative stories like this one that can bring them down.
Okay, so now he's finally showing his cards with why he believes all of this stuff without any evidence, without any logic, without any text. It's because he believes in a postmodern power narrative of the church, is that all of life is a competition between the powerful oppressor and the powerless oppressed. And the idea is that there's this secret cabal of people in the 200s who decided that they needed to change the text to write out Mary Magdalene. Now, you wouldn't have to do that. There's an article that says it's real simple to say, not Magdalene. But even then, he is simply coming up with an idea that is totally foreign to the way the gospel works, to the way the early church works. He is simply saying, I am looking back through time and I see a character I like from a feminist perspective, and I really want to make her powerful. So it must be that the church screwed it up. That's all I have for today. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. We'd love to hear more. Thanks. Bye.